Now, to me, that's kind of splitting hairs. That's missing the overall picture. So does this matter? Do I care? That's what I'm getting at. So this is what I think is the really important takeaway to get from it. I mean, it's really great, but the exact value I think is trivia. But when you think about it, this is what I think you should care about. So again, we have glycolysis producing 2 net ATP. Again, net because you do generate 4 ATP, but you need to invest 2 ATP. Citric acid cycle per glucose. Well, per turn of citric acid cycle, you generate 1 ATP via GTP. But again, remember you have our 2 pyruvate molecules, so 1 times 2 is 2. Now compare that to what you get from the entire electron transport chain from all the NADH and FADH you did in the first 2 steps. So what you have here is that if you cash out all that NADH and FADH2, whether it's 30, 32, 36, 38, electron transport chain, this is where you get all that ATP from. It's not from those first 2 steps. The energy you generate from the electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation, that is where you get the majority of ATP from your cell if you're doing that cellular respiration. So yeah, someone put that value. So again, it's like, don't tell your biology students that Dr. Seega says that that's not important if that's what they want you to know, to go with that, all right? But this is for this class, this is my domain, so this is my house. So I'm like, this is the big picture I think is worth it. This is why the mitochondria is so important, because not only do they do the citric acid cycle, but the electron transport chain is where you generate the most of the ATP you get from acetyl-CoA. So that's what I think is, this is directly produces the majority of the ATP during cellular respiration. So this is the big picture. Again, 30, 32, 36, 38, go with whatever your other professors say. But this is what I definitely want everyone to take back away from that whole glycolysis, Krebs citric acid cycle, and electron transport chain slash oxphos. All right. And yeah, okay, can cells still do TCA cycle without oxygen or just glycolysis? So in theory, they could, because you don't actually directly use oxygen in that step. But if you don't have oxygen, you're not able to cash out that NADH and FADH2 you generated from the citric acid cycle. So then glycolysis. Yeah, so glycolysis is, so that's the other thing about glycolysis, is that glycolysis does not require oxygen either. Yep, so then the oxygen and water, that's where it comes in. It's like, it's the electron transport chain that really requires the oxygen, and that's where it generates the water. So that's another thing you might see in like biochem courses, like where do these different parts of that cellular respiration equation come from? Okay, so then this is so I'll try to cover the rest of the metabolism, but again, for this chapter, there's a lot of intermediate steps. Just we saw in that picture, like many different intermediate steps between that. But this is how I approach metabolism and how I teach it at this level, is that I'm more concerned about what's your starting point and what's your end point and what's the overall purpose in between those points. And again, the details are more memorization, and do they contribute to your overall knowledge? Maybe. If you really like the details, fine. But yeah, this is what I'm getting at here. So how do you get from that nutrient you absorb through your digestive system, how do you get to energy? All right.